right, welcome back to another great show tonight, folks. Again, we have the crew, JSL, Paul, Reyna, Alex, Amori. Welcome all back, everyone. And tonight is going to be one of those spotlight shows where we are going to dive in and talk about M Series. Now, all I know is it's M Series is multiple experiences. I know, Josh, you know a lot more about this, so I'm just going to let you talk for a minute.
The M Series. This is probably what Black Mass is best known for. These have been events that have been going on. We've got multiple shows, starting with Prelude and running through the rest of the M Series and a few side quests. Black Mass is talked about in hushed tones. What actually happens in those shows typically kind of stays inside of it, unless you're talking to the right people. And so this is the madness of Alex, I think. And so, Alex, gosh, no, I want you to tell me everything you can about the M Series.
All right. Well, I've been waiting to do this for a while now because I know it can kind of get confusing, especially when you're getting roughed up and stuff. So M was conceived as like a chess match, right? And so there are two main characters in M, and that is Clausen and Kim. And the very first show, Prelude, is you stepping – my concept for a lot of these shows is I wanted the guest not just to be like some faceless person. I wanted the guest to play a character within the show and then maybe even meet that character later on as another character to kind of like interact with themselves and remember. So Prelude was you, the guest, playing Kim, meeting Clausen to fulfill your fantasy, which is child murder. And so Kim is this kind of like mysterious person. We don't know much about Kim. We just know in the beginning of Prelude, it's hinted that Kim has a lot of money and had to jump through a lot of fucked up hoops to get to the point where we're at. And Clausen is very excited because Clausen is a very smart person, is a very prepared person, and always is looking for a good death. And we make that very clear in Prelude, is like Clausen is looking for a good death. And he thought it might have been Baker, but it's not. Mm-hmm. Like he knows that Baker's not smarter than him, and we make that clear right in the beginning that Clausen is the alpha here and Baker is his muscle. And Baker respects him very much and is very scared of him because of what happens in future shows, like especially part one. So Prelude is you stepping into the shoes of Kim, meeting Clausen, and fulfilling your fantasy of shooting a child. But before that, you have to prove that you have your final test to become part of the organization and get your avatar and become a member of Black Mass. So you're one of us. You're part of the organization, as we like to say. So that's Prelude, and you had to go through a drip torture while Clausen read to you and talked to you and just made sure, just kind of like psychologically evaluated. So it was almost like a show that was completely an ink blot test. So we were, and honestly, that's what I wanted to do as for the show anyway. I wanted to gauge guests, see how they reacted to us, and just make and see how we worked with them and how we worked with our surroundings, just how we worked together outside of in our new environment. Because this is the first time we had done it just us. So I wanted to keep that simple. So Prelude was very simple. It was very much like a trailer to a film. So it's just establishing that there are three people in this universe. There's Kim, there's Clausen, and there's Baker. And we shot a little kid. So in the Prelude, it wasn't revealed. I didn't want it to reveal that it was a child. I think part one is when you realize that you were a child murderer. So in part one, you as the guest played a child. You were a child that Clausen hired, because Clausen always has people under his sleeve. He always has new people as an inauguration, but we'll get to that. So Clausen's always hiring people, always has people. You never know who's working for him. I kind of am influenced by Kaiser Soze that way. Like, you don't know, like a lot of the people working for him didn't even know what they were doing. That way, if they got caught, they didn't fucking know. So Clausen is very much that way. And he hires you as a kid to smuggle in a bear, which had a knife in it, to get to another operative that's already in there. What's that?
It was a tiger.
It's a stuffed tiger.
It was a tiger.
It
was a tiger.
It was a tiger. I'm so sorry.
So I kind of hit it at the beginning. Clausen kind of treated you like a kid. We gave you a lollipop and a lunch. We kind of hinted and kind of hinted towards your character. And then when you went in, you bonded with this other kid that Kim had already had tied up. So the whole thing is like you're going in there to smuggle this doll into the other kid that's already there. But you don't know what's inside of it or what's going on. So you meet this other kid in part one while, after you're dropped off is basically, it's the same concept of Prelude. You're acting as another kid that Clausen is delivering for Kim to murder. So you're just another fucking kid that he's going to kill, but not really because Clausen's fucking weird. So what happens is you smuggle in that knife, and the way you give the knife to the assassin is you don't realize that the assassin is a little kid posing as a little kid. At the end of the show, he strips off his onesie, and there he is, Escobar. I miss you.
Oh, Escobar.
So what you thought was a kid in the beginning of part one ended up being an adult and was there to murder Kim as a plant because in Prelude, Clausen makes it very clear that Kim is to follow the rules. And Kim is no exception to the rules and must do everything that is told. Otherwise, Clausen's like, I'm going to be the one that gets you. And you're going to lose. Like, if you want to go to war with me, it's not going to, you're going to lose. It's actually a line that he said in Prelude. So obviously that's foreshadowing because they're going to go to war. Obviously we need a fucking conflict for the show to happen. So you smuggle in that bear. You get out, you have that bonding moment with the kid. So like naming the tiger, you name the tiger with the kid, and he comes and bonds. In that moment, the kid's like, "You'll never hurt me, right? You're never gonna hurt me. You promise you'll never hurt me." And that's where Kim comes in, catches you, and that's when the stabbing would happen and that betrayal. And you had to betray the kid, and that's when we got a lot of emotion. Like some people were like, it's funny because some people were like, "Fuck yeah, I want to stab you." And some people were legit didn't want to do it and resisted quite a bit and really didn't expect to feel the bone and all that. So yeah, that's part one was the conflict really escalating between Kim and Clausen. So, and then from there we moved back into inauguration. So inauguration is like what I like to call like a side quest or or like a supplement, or like a chapter. So that goes back in time to when Clausen and Baker first met. And inauguration is Baker taking in Clausen for his very first mission with Black Mass.
It's good to see you, man. I want you to know before we start this, I had to pull a lot of strings to make this happen. I can't wait for you to see how I work. Come on, Clausen.
And that is to eliminate an entire sorority house. And the significance of that is because Baker goes through, and this is old Baker, because in Prelude he mentions that he has a different way of doing things, and he has a new avatar, and that he's much cleaner and much professional. And so I wanted to show Baker before he met Clausen, when he was still sloppy and just cocky and just a piece of shit. And so he goes through this sorority house completely sloppy to the point where he messes up and misses one person, and that person is attacking and doing the whole thing. And then Clausen's plant comes in, Diane, and shoots everybody and cleans up the mess. And the reason I wanted to have an inauguration was to show the moment where Baker realized, like, that before that moment, Baker thought he was tougher than Clausen. Like, this is my buddy. I'm bringing him into the organization. Look, I'm doing a good thing. Like, he's smart. He can do this shit too. And we'll touch more on how they met and why that happened. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So, and then that moment is where he's just like, oh shit, Clausen's a lot crazier and smarter and tougher than I thought, and more ruthless than I thought. And you'll see it in the movie. He's just sitting there going, oh shit, after Diane comes and shoots the actor. Like, he's just like, oh my God. And that's him. Like, that's where all the respect for Clausen comes in. Right. And so I wanted to establish the relationship between Clausen and Baker there. And so that moves into part two. Right. And part two is the, again, escalating the conflict between Kim and Clausen. Clausen is obviously looking for Kim. The end of part two ended with Kim getting stabbed in the neck. And just with, oh, I'm sorry, part one, yeah, you got bit. Yeah, you got bit. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, you give the knife, and then he comes over and he stabs you, and then he bites your neck out and spits it out on your, on the guest's lap, which was great. And you're sitting there bleeding, And we actually had a couple of alternate endings for that, but I won't touch on that. We'll get to that later. I won't even touch on that. I want that to be special for the people who expounded it.
Documentary.
Oh yeah, I do talk about it in the documentary. So yeah. In some of the cases, we had Kim was the one who was injured in some of the shows, and in some of the shows we had the kid die. And depending on that will affect like your part 3. So depending on if the kid died, you know, like Kim will have a scar for some people and Kim won't have a scar for others. So you were assaulted and you were left for dead, but you were still alive kind of at the end of part 1. So part 2 is Clausen looking for Kim, you know, because we didn't get confirmation on that you were dead in part 1. So Kim is, we're looking for Kim, and Clausen hears, because Black Mass has these facilities, like these safe houses that are kind of like influenced by Old Boy. Like it's not a prison, but it's a place that you can send people that will be imprisoned, you know, if you need them to be. And Kim is brilliant and actually sent himself there because he's like, look, no one asks questions there. And it's their own fucking place. They're not going to look for me right under their nose. Like in The Pianist when he hides in the Nazi freaking headquarters. Yeah. It's the same thing. So like here he is hiding out in this place. And Kim literally can't ask questions there because he'll get assassinated, because that's the whole point is like, is the anonymity or the to stay anonymous in that prison. So that's where the guest comes in. So he hires the guest to go into the prison to ask questions to see if this guy Kim is in there, because right now there's no, he just hears word. He's like, hey, someone in there said the word Kim. It slipped up. I can't go in there and ask questions. I can't go up to any inmates and be like, hey, are you Kim? Because if I go in there asking questions as an operative, that completely compromises the integrity of the prison. So your job in part 2 was to find out if that rumor was true and if that person knew about Kim or where Kim was or if Kim was even there. So you go in and you find out that not only does that person know about Kim, but they are in fact Kim in the prison, right? And that's just, you're just in there at the wrong place at the wrong time, because Todd and his friends have been in there for a while and have been planning their escape. And you just happen to be there on the day that that's going to happen.
What's up, Barty?
What the fuck is
Go! Go! Hold him! Hold him! Hold him! Yeah! Hold him! Man! Hold him! Hold him! Ah, fuck it, man! Give it to me! I got it! Get it, man! Get on top of this motherfucker! Hold him! Hold him down! Baker! Be fucking tight! Hold him! Baker! Hold him back! He wants to touch him! Baker! 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 Easy, boy! Easy! 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 Oh! See what else you can do with it. Oh, you fuck! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Long time no see.
Oh, he's so pretty!
Oh, shit.
Oh, I like this fucker up.
Oh, he looks into your eyes and hates you.
All right, and Kim is just like, fuck it, I'm here. This is a good way to get the fuck out of here. You know, it's lucky for him too. And so in the middle of the torture session, it's revealed that Kim is there. Like Clausen or Baker grabs the microphone and is like yelling, "It's Kim! It's Kim! It's him!" And at that point, the guest is in the position of, do I sell Kim out, or or do I help Todd, or do I help Kim, or what's going on? And there's like that confrontation. And I wanted, and you end up escaping with Kim. But what I wanted, the question at the end of part 2 that I really wanted to raise was, when you're at the bar and Clausen was telling you like how you got in, because how to get into the prison and the whole thing, because it was like you're turning yourself in and you had to be captured by my operatives who were Bo and Juliet, who were very interesting and some of my favorite characters ever to work with. That was a pretty fucked up scene. They were just going to town over you. Like, that was great, the way you got kidnapped for that show. So I wanted to raise the questions like, did Clausen tell you how you were going to get out? Did he? And I mean, was, because the whole idea was find out information, relay information to Baker, who's in there. Like, Baker will find you, you talk to Baker, and you'll be fine. That was the plan. Was Baker going to get you out after that? I don't know. So I want the guest to ask himself, like, okay, Baker, Clausen got me in there. Was he going to get me out? Kim actually got me out, but this is a fucking child murderer. like whose side do I want to be on here? And honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna. You don't really get to choose because in the beginning of Prelude, you made choices.
Yeah.
And based on those choices and another choice that you made in part 2, that's your allegiance. And that leads us into part 3, which is going to be the final confrontation between Kim and Clausen. And depending on who you align with and who you're with, you will do a loyalty mission with your faction, I would say. So if you're with Kim, you're going to do you're going to do a night with Kim where you get to hang out with him and do some character development and do stuff. And depending on what happens there, your ending in part 3 will be different. And if you pick Team Clausen, you will get to have a completely different experience with different people and come out the show from a completely different angle. So I kind of wanted to be like being John Malkovich sometimes, you know, like, so like in Inauguration, you play Clausen, and in Prelude, you play Kim. And then the reason I wanted you to play both those characters is it's leading up into part 3, this confrontation in part 3, which is, you know, which one do you want to, you've played both. You've been both. You've actually been in their heads. You've actually made choices, and your personal actions have developed both of these characters. Now you're going to side with one, and like I said, at the end of part 3, like nobody's coming out of part 3 clean, and it's going to be, and you get the best souvenir that like you're ever going to get for any show. I think like the Instagram photos off the part 3 are going to be the fucking shit. Yeah, it's going to be expensive, but you're going to get the coolest toy ever, and you get to play with it. And
play with is the best word.
You get to play with your toy, and you get to like. It's going to be a full-on fight. It's going to be the bloodiest, amazing show, and like I guarantee that people are going to be smiling ear to ear afterwards. You know, because like I'm also very influenced by video games, and I think that like. That is going to come into play because it's not just going to be like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, I want people to come through the show and not wonder, oh, what's going to happen to me? I want them to be like, oh, shit, what am I going to do? What kind of crazy shit am I going to do? I want, you know, because in part 2, people are like, I shot 2 people with a grenade launcher. And that immediately gets people's attention. They're like, oh, grenade launcher. Like, yeah, like that's, yeah. And then Paul, like, bringing life to Kim too, because a lot of these characters were like really ambitious, and Paul was like, what if we just do a wig and stuff like that? So revealing Kim and all that stuff, that's also important. But yeah, you made choices in Prelude, right? And those choices now will play into your faction. And honestly, it might be worth going through part 3 multiple times, because you might want to see both sides of that story and see how, and just, or maybe see how different choices you make the story different, you know, because I want to make it personal for everybody. So, and the other thing I want want people to not feel like they have to go through all the shows in order to enjoy part 3, because they really don't. Like, it's not like there's a lot of plot going on here. It's I mean, if you want to boil it down simple, it's Kim versus Clausen. Kim is a child murderer. Clausen's a shady motherfucker. You never know what's up his sleeve. There's always someone around the corner that he's got hired. Is he telling you the truth? So Clausen's a liar. Kim is a child murderer. You know, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, but I want you to I want you to have fun with that. And I don't know, I want it to be more of an experience, right?
I think one of the biggest things that people have come back with us as is like, we've made all these choices. What's the outcome of all these choices? And it's like, there are things in the show that have happened to you already that are based on those choices. It might be totally in your face, but they're there. And I think that, I guess my question to Alex is, you know, are people going to be allowed to be going through the different variants of shows if they're playing different avatars maybe? But if they made those choices,
well, obviously, when they, I want them to feel that way. Yeah, and they have to go through the first time. They're not going to be able to choose, right? But like, I want to maybe toy with the idea of like, hey, if you want to go through again, you can get a ticket again and do it and do, because it's essentially another show, right? Because the whole thing with part 3 is the 3s, and I want it to be like the most ambitious thing we've ever done. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna set the tone for the new kind of way I want to do shows with blindness. Like this more of like a more, if you ever seen that film The Game with Michael Douglas?
Oh yeah.
You know? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Like I I love that part when he just comes back from Mexico. He's like, I got Left 4 Dead in Mexico, and all I got was this shitty T-shirt. I like, and like just all the crazy shit that goes on in that film. I want to go that direction. You know, I want to go I want to go that direction and also play more on the surreal shit and like I have this vision of like I played that, you know, like when you're playing a video game and you're following a dude like doing a sniper mission or something. I want to do shit like that and feel like I'm, you know, like I want to do all gillied up for real. You know, and believe me, we're gonna have that moment soon. Like I want to pull the trigger. I want to feel that satisfaction. You know, so that's where I'm going with part 3. I think, yeah. So like, don't worry about plot. It's Kim versus Clausen. This is just my pop song ode. Like I just want to get M out because I'm like, oh, okay, now I have a benchmark. You know, now I know what's up. Now, you know, so.
Too, like if you didn't go through Prelude in part 1, you can watch, you know, all the films up until
and make the choices.
Yeah, and make those choices even though you weren't there live doing those choices.
So right now with the films, you can buy those directly from you guys. And that's something really special because it's really, you're going to get that glimpse inside the world. You're going to see those characters. I think anyone with even a vague interest, it's wholeheartely worth the $5 price of admission because I watch these movies and just like, fuck me, man. This is great. I've watched Clausen Inauguration 20 times.
Wow.
I've watched the documentary at least 5 or 6 times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
this is worth it.
Very early on to keep a record of what we were doing and put it out because I think like one of the things that was amazing about Heretic were some of the stories and the shows that happened. That I mean, it was cool. If you were there, you saw amazing things, but you were the only one there, and you know, and those things. Maybe they were recorded or they weren't recorded, and we wanted to give people an idea of sort of what we were like as a show outside of doing the show itself, you know. And I think by watching all the movies, you get a really good idea of what the M series is about, and about just the tone and the theme, and you can kind of figure out by watching those movies whether that's something you want to do or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to encourage people to do that shit, you know? Like a lot of people are discouraged to go through this stunt because they think they'll get hurt or they think it's too intense for them. And I think what I want to do with these shows is I want to test people and I want people to have the same feeling that I did when I left Blackout. I was like, holy shit, I just did that. Like they suffocated me and I'm a big boy. I did it. I want people to have that feeling. And like, I remember going through that thing like, holy shit, I might be a little bit of a masochist. Like, you know, so it was really cool, man. I want people to have that feeling rather than just like fucking have a black eye or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So then I guess my question is going to be, if I'm new to attending a Black Mass show and I'm going in at M Part 3, is there some sort of questionnaire or something that I fill out to the point where you know the side that I've chosen, whether it be Clausen or Kim, and the effects that has brought me into M Part 3? To know what show I'm going through?
It would be watching Prelude has a set of questions that you would answer, and Part 1 has a couple of questions that you would answer. And so based on those two, because Inauguration, side quests don't have questions, and Part 2, we didn't have questions. So really Prelude and Part 1, you answer those questions. That gets you an avatar, gives us a direction of what side you're going to choose. And it's interesting too, because you know, if you went through Prelude or you didn't go through Prelude and then, you know, maybe you watched the movie and answered the questions and then you went through Part 1 and you're like, holy shit, this is not the direction I wanted to go. Now that I know who these characters are, it's like, well, too bad. Like your question.
That's the vision right there.
Yeah, just like real life, you make those choices and it's time to live with them. I love that. And so I think that this once again shows how useful the films can be in terms of drawing people into the storyline. they're going to catch you up. It seems like to me. I know I've had friends in the past who went in, were going to be going into Branding of the Lamb and some other shows, and they purchased the films first to kind of set them into the storyline.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's more like I want to communicate that like M series is more about the adventure, and than it is like these are great characters that I've had a fun time bonding with, and it's crazy because like I kind of feel like the M series is like my fucked up Mr. Rogers neighborhood, and like I just, you know, you follow every time you go to one of my shows. I have that like speech where when you walk into the car or wherever, Clausen or whoever's taking you will tell you like every step you take towards our unit, like towards whatever you're going towards, you're no longer yourself and you're someone else. Like it's like I got it from the ring walk from Mike Tyson when he's walking to the ring. And I wanted people to know, like, every step you take towards the show, you are no longer who you are. You are in my universe. So, like, you're getting on the trolley and you're going into my make-believe land, you know? And that's what I wanted. You know, I wanted people to be completely disconnected from their normal reality. Because fuck reality, right? That's why we do what we do, is to escape our freaking dull bullshit lives, especially right now, you know? So, yes. I think I want to just communicate that like this is about the journey and not like this isn't like some prolific, like I'm not trying to write, like I'm not Ingmar Bergman, you know. It's I do like my symbolism and stuff like that, but like this is about having fun and going on an adventure with characters that I would want to hang out with, but like not in real life because I would rather not have a prison record.
All right, Amori, why don't you tell us about how you bring Alex's characters from paper to real life? I mean, let us know your process and how you do that.
It's actually quite fun. Just kind of watching Alex, the way he directs them, and then just kind of like watching them watching like the actors kind of figure their character out to the point where like I can give like them little tips, or Reyna and Paul will give them little tips, and that will help them like create their character more. And say like for some reason I don't know, a character that was my gremlin. She wasn't sure about how she looked during like a certain scene, so I basically, we played music for her and let her dance like just free-handedly for like for about 10 minutes and get her used to it. And in the end, she was so comfortable. She was like basically pressing into the wall so much she was almost tearing it down. So like I think it's just so fun to like do little things to like, well, do you want to have a dance party for 10 minutes and maybe that'll bring you out of your shell a bit more?
Right.
Just like come up with little
I love how you
tricks.
directed the rape scene in Inauguration. Talk about that.
Oh yeah. An inauguration.
This is brilliant.
It was basically I was right there next to the actors and they were against the door and the guest was on the other side of the door, and what they were hearing was like screaming and pounding and, you know, the like characters getting their ass whooped and raped, and I'm on the other side basically just this close next to them. I have like a phone or a tablet and a stopwatch, and I'm directing it through the phone and typing in, okay, scream a bit louder, all right, pound on the door a little bit harder, all right, you get ready for the pop shot. In about 10 more seconds, get ready for to kill her and come.
What I love is when Alex will sit there and describe this character to me, and then Amori will just be like, oh, I got somebody coming tomorrow, and that person who shows up is exactly what Alex described. And he just, I remember the first time I saw Clausen and Baker, like they were standing outside the door and we were pulling up in the car, and I was just like, they're perfect. Yeah. They're perfect. I mean, it literally, he just has this ability to go out and find a human person that matches these strange characters so well.
We've gotten really lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex will describe to me what kind of character he's looking for, and I'll be like, well, I kind of know this person, and take a look at them, and Alex will be like, "That's perfect, actually." Like, wait, I wonder, can you like throw knives at a target perfectly? And they're like, "Oh yeah, I just happen to like be world champion of the knife throwing competition."
Long Beach is wild, man. I gotta get out there.
We have such an amazing, talented, just like none of this happens. Like this isn't, like you said before, this isn't like about getting rich. So all of our actors, like every single one of them has made sacrifices to be with us. And I respect them so much. Like I don't just respect them. I love them. I don't throw that word around very often. But like, I love them for it because like, that's beautiful. Like I got emotional the first time I saw Prelude because it was the first time, like you have to understand, like here's this little kid who came from Universal, like sketching in my notebook for over 20 years. And, you know, being on movie sets, just dreaming. And I saw it happen. And I just hugged Paul and Reyna and Amori because I was like, I bonded with them so much that night because seeing my vision happen and like talking to Clausen and Baker was so amazing. Like, it's so beautiful. Like, I can't describe anything else. It's so perfect. So like, I can't, like our cast is what makes it. Like, I'm nothing. Like, I'm just the ingredients to the pie, you know? And the trust I have in the three other founders, and like, they've helped me realize, like, they've never compromised my integrity. They've always helped me realize my vision. I think that's why we work so well together, is because all of us have a unique vision, but we all like, and none of us ever want to compromise anybody's integrity. Like Reyna has a different style than me, but I'm a huge fan of Reyna. So like when Reyna did My 90s Nightmare, it inspired me and I loved it. And I was such a fan of it. And it like, and that way I think it's going to be great because we're not going to get jaded and like, we're always going to like hold each other to a great standard. And it reminds me of like United Artists, like Charlie Chaplin. Mm-hmm. You know, and I want to have that vibe with this shit. And I hope we continue to it. I think we have the team to do it, you know, mm-hmm. Especially, man, the work you've been doing.
You've gotten a lot of actors. I've seen Alex get a lot of actors that weren't ready to like shoot a full-blown 38 like gun. Mm-hmm. And in the end, she's walking in the room, owning it, and she like before her even cue is due, she's coming into the room in the end and is like, all right, how do I like, all right, I'm ready for my scene. Where's the gun? Like she's grabbing the gun on her own. And like in the beginning, she was like crying to the point to like every time she shot it, but she would cry every time she shot it. But after like being with Alex and letting him direct her to the where she's like just walking in before her cue and it's like, all right, I got the gun, I'm ready.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But you're also, I want to throw out, she's also our stage manager. So like, I'm like my dad being a stage manager, I take that job really seriously. So when I write, it started really with inauguration. I started writing out cue lists. And so all the cues that get called during a show are her. So, I mean, Reyna does guests and stuff like that, but I can't, like, Reyna already does the job of 15 people, and so does Paul. So, honestly, they can't call a show, take tickets, like, stage manager doesn't do that. They do one thing. So, yeah, she does that. So she's got the stopwatch. So if there's a 10-minute scene, she's the one that plays the cue to do the next scene. All that is her. Like, once the show starts, she's in control damn near of the thing, you know, of Reyna would say is more front of house, and Amori and Paul are Paul's like my tech and does everything tech, and like, man, I'm like the most useless imbecile during the show, honestly. But yeah, her stage managing is amazing. Like it's fucking awesome. Modest.
Wow. So I feel really lucky tonight because getting to hear them tell us what the M series is and shedding that light on it. And honestly, I'm even more excited for M3 than ever before. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Now people have a good idea what to expect going in. You know, I can't wait. I can't wait to do a Black Mass show because I was always worried that, hey, I didn't do M Part 1, M Part 2, any of these shows prior because I knew they continued. And I was always worried, well, is that going to catch me up? But I mean, after hearing what they say, they talk about seeing the movies ahead of time. They give such great detail here about what you go through. I'm ready and I'm pumped. I cannot wait to hit up Part 3. And everybody else is going to have to wait for our next episode, though, because that's all the time we got for tonight. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This is Chris, JSL, Paul, Reyna, Alex, and Amori for another episode of Black Mass Confidential. Give us a like and a subscribe to the page if you like what you see, and a comment down below telling us what you want to see more of. Have a good night.